The palace alarms were not subtle. They didn't ring so much as announce judgment. A deep, vibrating tone rolled through the Vulpine royal court, the kind of sound that suggested something expensive, fragile, and probably alive was about to fail catastrophically. The human looked up from the glowing cup in his hand. "That for me?" he asked casually. Across the hall, the Vulpine royal froze mid-stride. Their silver fur puffed slightly, a telltale sign of aristocratic panic. Advisors scattered like spilled paperwork. "No!" the royal snapped. "That alarm indicates environmental hazard level 4. You are to remain still. Do not touch anything. Do not inhale deeply. And absolutely do not ingest." The human took a sip. Everyone stopped breathing. The cup hissed faintly as the neon liquid slid down his throat. He smacked his lips, considering. "Huh," he said. "Minty." The silence that followed felt medically significant. An attendant collapsed. Another whispered, "He consumed industrial coolant." The royal stepped forward slowly, eyes wide. "Human, that liquid is rated for hull maintenance. It corrodes composite alloys." The human glanced at the cup. "Yeah? Tastes like something my uncle used to mix with soda. Got a nice kick." Several guards backed away. The royal's tail flicked sharply. "Are you experiencing symptoms?" He rolled his shoulders. "Define symptoms." "Pain. Dissolution. Existential unraveling." "Nah," he said. "Little tingle. Kinda refreshing." A tremor passed through the court. The royal leaned close to an aide and whispered, not quietly enough, "Update the hazard profile. Increase his survival index." The aide swallowed. "It's already at theoretical maximum." The human set the cup down with a satisfied sigh. "You guys really gotta label your drinks better. I thought it was water." "That was labeled," the royal said weakly. The human squinted at the glowing glyphs. "Oh. Yeah, I don't read, murder alphabet." The royal pinched the bridge of their snout. "Human. For your safety, and ours, please refrain from consuming unidentified substances." He grinned. "Relax. I've handled stronger stuff." Half the court visibly flinched. The royal stared. "That was a reassurance?" "Yeah," he said. "I'm pretty durable." The royal made a quiet sound that suggested paperwork would be written about this. They gestured for him to follow. "Remain close. The palace contains numerous hazards unfamiliar to your physiology. We must protect you." He nodded easily. "Appreciate it. Wouldn't want to get into anything dangerous." A nearby attendant whispered, "He already did." They walked through a corridor lined with shimmering containment fields. Inside one floated a creature that looked like someone had given claws to a nightmare and taught it to hold grudges. The human stopped. "Whoa! Is that thing alive?" The royal stiffened. "Do not approach. That is a classified apex predator capable of—" Too late. The human crouched and pressed his hand through the field before anyone could scream. The barrier rippled, then let him. The creature blinked. Its many eyes softened. It leaned into his palm like an oversized cat. He scratched behind what he guessed was an ear. "There we go," he murmured. "You just needed a little attention, huh?" The predator purred. The sound rattled the walls. 3 guards fainted in perfect synchronization. The royal's voice came out thin. "You are petting a siege organism." "Yeah," he said. "He's sweet. You just gotta know where to touch." The royal's ears flattened so hard they nearly disappeared. Advisors began whispering frantically. "Is he controlling it? Is this a dominance display? Should we evacuate?" The human stood, dusting his hands. "See? Totally harmless." Behind him, the predator curled up peacefully, canceling several active kill protocols. The royal stared at the creature, then at him. "Human, that organism has never displayed affection." He shrugged. "Everything's got a soft spot." The royal repeated that phrase quietly, as if it were a threat. They moved faster after that. "New rule. the Royal announced. You will not touch any lifeforms, liquids, glowing surfaces, humming panels, or objects emitting vapor. That's most objects, the human said. Yes, the Royal replied. Correct. A sudden klaxon blared. Red light flooded the corridor. Containment breach! Someone shouted. Plasma conduit failure! The Royal spun. This is precisely what I warned. The human had already walked over. A jagged tear in the conduit spat white-blue plasma like an angry star. Staff scrambled for shielding. He pulled a gray strip from his pocket. What is that? The Royal demanded. Duct tape, he said. That is not a recognized. He slapped it over the breach. The plasma stopped. Just stopped. The conduit hummed politely, as if embarrassed. The corridor went silent. A scientist whispered, That violates 6 energy laws. The human pressed the tape firmly. There. Good as new. The Royal stepped closer, eyes trembling. You sealed the plasma rupture with adhesive fabric. Hey, he said. Quick fixes hold longer than you think. The Royal made the same noise again. Staff stared at the conduit like it might confess to something. The human smiled. See? No danger. The Royal slowly turned to face the assembled court. He has consumed corrosive coolant, pacified a siege predator, and repaired a catastrophic failure, casually. An aide nodded shakily. Hazard index updated. To what? The Royal asked. The aide swallowed. We ran out of numbers. The Royal looked back at the human. He stood relaxed, hands in pockets, humming softly. Perfectly at ease in a palace that was statistically trying to kill him. Or failing to. You, the Royal said carefully, are to remain under constant supervision. Sure, he said cheerfully. I'm just getting warmed up. Several attendants reconsidered their career choices. The Royal stared at him, realization creeping in like a slow storm. They hadn't been protecting him from danger. They had been introducing danger to him. And danger was losing. The palace safety bulletin updated itself 3 times in the span of a minute. Each revision made the same quiet admission in more complicated language. The human was not reacting to hazards correctly. The Vulpine Royal read the scrolling warnings with tightening ears while the human stood beside them, chewing thoughtfully on something glowing. Human, the Royal said slowly. What are you eating? He glanced down. Found it in that bowl. Figured it was candy. The Royal's fur visibly fluffed. That is a compressed fuel pellet for emergency thrusters. He rolled it around his mouth. Huh. Bit chalky. Good aftertaste, though. Across the hall, a technician physically sat down on the floor. You ingested propulsion material, the Royal said. Yeah, he replied. We've got energy bars that taste worse. The Royal stared at him like a math problem that had insulted their family. Please, they said carefully. Stop consuming palace infrastructure. He shrugged. You guys leave stuff lying around. Before the Royal could respond, a tremor rippled through the chamber. The floor panels flickered, and a warning glyph flared red. Localized gravity instability, an aide shouted. Field fluctuation. The Royal grabbed the human's arm. Do not move! He looked down as the air warped slightly, like heat rising from asphalt. Feels weird, he said. Because the gravity vector is collapsing, the Royal snapped. He took an experimental step forward. Instead of being crushed, inverted, or scattered across dimensions, he just leaned slightly. Oh, he said. Like walking uphill. The Royal's grip tightened. That is a spatial distortion capable of folding armored vehicles. He wiggled his shoulders. Kinda nice on the calves. Then he did something that caused 3 scientists to audibly gasp. He jumped. The distortion rippled, hiccuped, and stabilized. The warning glyph faded to calm blue. The chamber fell silent. A technician whispered. He equalized the field. The Royal turned slowly. Human, what did you just do? He shrugged. Walked it off. Several aides began quietly updating their wills. They moved on in tense silence, palace staff keeping a cautious distance like wildlife observers tracking something that might suddenly learn to sprint. They passed the maintenance alcove where a cluster of engineers were arguing around a sparking console. "Phase regulator won't sync," one snapped. "We'll have to shut down the wing." The human leaned in. "What's wrong with it?" An engineer started to say everything, but he was already reaching inside. "Human, do not," the royal began. Too late. He twisted two wires together with his fingers. The spark stopped. The console hummed happily. Every engineer froze. "That is not how that system works," one whispered. "Sure it is," the human said. "You just gotta convince it." The royal stared. "You cannot convince a phase regulator." He tapped the panel. "Worked, didn't it?" The regulator emitted a satisfied chime. One engineer slowly sat down. Another muttered, "He's negotiating with machinery." The royal's tail twitched violently. They continued walking, tension rising like pressure in a sealed chamber. Ahead, alarms erupted again. "Biohazard breach!" someone yelled. Containment doors slammed open as staff scattered. A cloud of shimmering spores drifted into the corridor, luminous, swirling, unmistakably dangerous. The royals shoved the human behind them. "Do not inhale!" He leaned sideways. "They smell kinda sweet. Because they dissolve respiratory tissue." He blinked. "Oh." Then he sneezed. The spore cloud vanished. Not dispersed. Not neutralized. Gone. The corridor echoed with stunned silence. A scientist scanned the air frantically. "They're gone. Completely." The royal turned in slow disbelief. "Human, what did you just do?" He shrugged. "Cleared my sinuses." The scientist stared at the scanner. "His immune response just erased them." Another whispered, "That's not an immune system. That's a hostile takeover." The royal looked at the human like one might regard a natural disaster politely asking for directions. "You are," they said carefully, "biologically incompatible with our hazard model." He grinned. "Story of my life." They reached a balcony overlooking the palace reactor core, a swirling column of contained energy that pulsed like a captive star. "Remain here," the royal ordered. "Do not approach the barrier." He nodded, then leaned forward slightly. The barrier flickered. The reactor pulse smoothed. Technicians scrambled at their stations. "Core stabilization increased," one shouted. Another stared at the readings. "It's syncing with his proximity?" The royal slowly turned. "Human, step back." He did. The core pulse wobbled again. He stepped forward. It stabilized. The chamber filled with quiet horror. "He's acting like a regulator," someone whispered. The human scratched his chin. "You guys ever try just standing near it?" The royal's voice trembled. "Our reactor is responding to your presence." "Neat," he said. The royal stared at the core, then at him. "You are accidentally improving critical infrastructure," they said. "Happy to help." The palace bulletin updated again. Human proximity recommended for system stability. The royal read it twice. Then once more. They looked up slowly. "You are now officially classified as a mobile safety device." He laughed. "That's a first." A technician whispered, "He's not surviving our systems." Another finished quietly, "Our systems are surviving him." The royal exhaled. They had invited a fragile organic guest into a palace full of dangers. Instead, the dangers were lining up for protection. The human stretched casually, rolling his shoulders like someone settling into a comfortable chair. "So," he said, smiling, "what's next?" By the time the Palace Hazard Index tried to update again, it simply displayed a polite error. Value exceeds model. The Vulpine Royal stared at the message like it had personally betrayed them. Around them, aides whispered in increasingly frantic tones. "He neutralized airborne biohazards. He stabilized the reactor by standing there." He consumed propulsion fuel. The royal closed their eyes. Stop listing them. I am aware. The human, meanwhile, was examining a wall panel that hummed ominously. This thing supposed to buzz like that? He asked. 6 technicians shouted at once. Do not touch it! He touched it. The humming stopped. The panel glowed a calm, satisfied green. A technician checked their scanner, then checked it again. He just recalibrated a cascading fault. How? Another demanded. The human shrugged. It felt loose. The royal pressed their claws to their temples. Human, please refrain from repairing systems you do not understand. I understand broken, he said. That counts. Before the royal could respond, a palace-wide tremor rippled through the structure. Lights flickered. Somewhere deep inside, something large and expensive made a noise that suggested regret. Core resonance spike! An aide yelled. Feedback loop forming. The royal's ears flattened. That can rupture the containment lattice. Evacuate. The human cracked his neck. Hold on. He walked toward the nearest maintenance hatch and pulled it open before anyone could physically stop him. Inside, energy conduits pulsed erratically, arcs of light snapping between nodes. Every instinct in the room screamed, do not enter. He stepped in anyway. The royal felt their heart attempt to resign. Human! They shouted. That chamber is unstable. Yeah, he called back. I can tell. He grabbed a loose conduit with both hands. The arcs surged. Every display in the room spiked. Technicians braced for explosion. Instead, the energy smoothed out, like a tangled wire being gently untwisted. The violent pulses settled into a steady rhythm. The human exhaled. There we go. He stepped back out, brushing imaginary dust from his hands. The chamber went quiet except for stunned breathing. A scientist whispered. He grounded the resonance manually. That's impossible, another said weakly. The royal stared. You absorbed a live feedback surge. He flexed his fingers. Little static. I've had worse. Several staff members began reevaluating their understanding of physics. The hazard index flickered again. Status: human interference, beneficial. The royal read it slowly. Beneficial. The human smiled. See? I'm helping. A new alarm blared, sharper, more panicked. Structural microfracture! Someone shouted. Pressure imbalance in the upper corridor. The royal turned. Seal the section. Too late. A crack spiderwebbed across the far wall. Atmosphere howled toward it. The human reacted faster than the emergency shutters. He slapped his palm over the fracture. The air stopped escaping. Not slowed. Stopped. The crack sealed under his hand with a faint hiss, material knitting back together like embarrassed skin. He pulled his hand away. The wall was flawless. The corridor was silent. A technician stared at their scanner. He patched a whole fracture. With his hand, another finished. The royal's voice came out faint. Human, what did you just do? He shrugged. Put pressure on it. That is not. The royal stopped. Apparently that is exactly what that is. The palace bulletin updated again. Human contact recommended for emergency repair. The royal laughed once, a brittle, disbelieving sound. He's becoming part of the maintenance protocol. An aide whispered. The human looked pleased. Nice. Do I get a uniform? No, the royal said quickly. Absolutely not. They turned to address the staff, but their speech was interrupted by a sudden shimmer in the air. A distortion ripple spread across the chamber, reality bending slightly out of alignment. Dimensional shear! Someone shouted. The edges of objects blurred. The floor tilted in ways geometry did not approve of. The royal grabbed the human's shoulder. Do not engage with that! He squinted. Looks like bad reception. Before anyone could process that sentence, he stepped forward and shoved the distortion. Not metaphorically. Physically. The ripple folded inward like a sheet being straightened. The air snapped back into place. Everything was normal again. Dead silence. A scientist whispered. He just corrected dimensional drift. With a push, another said. The Royals slowly released their grip. Human dimensional instability is not something one pushes. Well, he said. It worked. The hazard index attempted to update, then gave up entirely. Status: human present, conditions stable. The Royal read it aloud. Conditions stable. A murmur spread through the chamber. He's stabilizing the environment just by being here. Our systems are recalibrating around him. The Royal looked at the human, relaxed, mildly curious, completely unaware he was dismantling centuries of safety doctrine. You, they said carefully, are not interacting with our hazards. He tilted his head. I'm not. You are overriding them. He thought about that. Huh. A beat passed. That bad? He asked. The Royal glanced around at the intact walls, stable reactor readings, calm air, and staff staring like witnesses to a friendly apocalypse. No, they admitted quietly. That is surprisingly good. The human smiled. Cool. He stretched again, perfectly at ease inside a palace that had spent the day trying, and failing, to inconvenience him. The Royal exhaled slowly. Every danger the palace could produce had met the human, and chosen survival. They looked at him with a mixture of awe, confusion, and dawning understanding. They hadn't invited a guest into a hazardous environment. They had introduced their hazards to something far more resilient. And the hazards were adapting. The human rolled his shoulders. So, he said lightly, anything else broken? The palace had stopped screaming. No alarms. No flashing glyphs. No technicians sprinting past with the haunted look of people negotiating with reality. Everything was calm. The Vulpine Royal did not trust calm. They stood in the central hall staring at the master diagnostic display while lines of data scrolled in perfect, steady rhythm. Readings? The Royal asked. A technician swallowed. All systems stable. Reactor? Optimal. Structural integrity? Higher than recorded baseline. The Royal's ears twitched. Higher? Yes, Your Grace. The palace appears reinforced. A quiet murmur spread through the staff. The Royal turned slowly. Across the hall, the human was leaning against a pillar, tossing a small metallic component into the air and catching it absent-mindedly. Every time he caught it, a nearby system ticked slightly upward in efficiency. The Royal stared. Human, what are you doing? He glanced up. Nothing. Just fidgeting. The technician checked their display. Each time he moves, micro-adjustments ripple through the structure. It's like the palace is sinking to him. The Royal closed their eyes briefly. Of course it is. They approached him cautiously, like one might approach a friendly explosive. Human, they said carefully. Your presence is improving our infrastructure. He grinned. Nice. I've been told I'm good with my hands. 3 attendants coughed violently. The Royal pretended not to hear it. We are preparing a formal assessment of whatever you are doing. I'm standing, he said. Yes, the Royal replied. You are doing that, aggressively. A ripple of laughter nervously escaped the nearby staff. Before the Royal could continue, the master display chimed. A new message scrolled across the screen. Palace systems, human aligned. The technician blinked. It classified him as a calibration reference. The Royal stared. Our palace now considers the human normal. The human shrugged. I've always been pretty standard where I'm from. The Royal looked at the perfectly stable diagnostics, then back at him. Your standard, they said slowly, is rewriting ours. Another alert chimed, not a warning, but an advisory. Recommendation, maintain human proximity. The Royal exhaled through their nose. We are being advised to keep you nearby for safety. Cool, he said. You want me to stand somewhere specific? Several technicians pointed at different parts of the hall at once. Reactor axis. Structural hub. Environmental core. The Royal raised a claw. One at a time. The human laughed. Relax. I'm not going anywhere. As if to emphasize the point, he leaned back against the pillar. The building hummed softly, a contented, resonant sound. A technician whispered, "Efficiency just climbed another 3%. Another stared at their scanner. Stress fractures gone. The Royal's tail flicked slowly. The palace is healing itself around him. He's like walking maintenance, someone murmured. The human brightened. Do I at least get a badge? No, the Royal said instantly. You absolutely do not get authority over anything. Worth a shot. The master display chimed again. This time, the message was longer. Hazard index, revised. The Royal read aloud. Environmental threats, minimal. System instability, negligible. Human presence, classified as stabilizing anomaly. They lowered their voice. Stabilizing anomaly. The hall filled with quiet amazement. One aide whispered, He didn't survive the palace. Another finished. The palace improved to survive him. The Royal turned to the human. We invited you here to protect you from our dangers. He smiled. Appreciate the thought. The Royal gestured around the calm, perfectly functioning hall. Instead, you protected the dangers from themselves. He laughed. Guess that happens. A transport aide approached nervously. Your Grace, the human shuttle is prepared. The Royal froze. Prepared for departure? Yes. A ripple of unease spread through the staff. The Royal looked at the human. You are leaving? He nodded. Yeah. Been fun, but I've got places to be. The diagnostics flickered slightly. A technician panicked. Efficiency dropping. Another checked their screen. Structural harmonics destabilizing. The Royals snapped their gaze back to him. Human, please remain stationary. He blinked. Okay. He stopped moving. The diagnostics stabilized instantly. The hall collectively exhaled. The Royal spoke very carefully. Your departure is having consequences. He scratched the back of his neck. Sorry? Our systems, the Royal said, choosing each word like it might explode, have become accustomed to you. Like a dependency? He asked. Yes, the Royal admitted. A terrifying one. He thought about that. So what, you want me to stick around forever? Several staff members nodded a little too quickly. The Royals shot them a look. We will adapt, they said firmly. Then, quieter. Eventually. The human smiled. You'll be fine. Just don't overcomplicate things. He gave the pillar one last friendly pat. The palace hummed, a lingering resonance, like it was memorizing the gesture. He turned to leave. Diagnostics dipped, then slowly steadied. The technician blinked. Systems holding. Another nodded. He left a stabilization imprint. The Royals stared at the displays. He calibrated the palace. The human paused at the threshold. Hey, he called back. If anything breaks. The Royal's ears twitched. Just hit it until it works, he finished. Several engineers looked personally attacked. The Royal inclined their head. Your methods are noted. He grinned. Good luck. And then he was gone. The hall stayed quiet. The palace systems ran smoothly, better than they ever had. The Royal looked at the final diagnostic summary. Status, stable, human calibration retained. They exhaled slowly. We attempted to shield him from danger, the Royal said softly. An aide nodded. And discovered, he was the safer environment. The Royal allowed themselves a small, incredulous smile. Update the records, they ordered. The aide straightened. Classification? The Royal looked toward the empty doorway. Human, they said, voice steady with awe. Class Omega. A beat passed. Friendly catastrophe. The palace hummed in agreement.